question to you, Lisa.
National assessments, known as the nation's report card, which I'm sure you know very much about, show that we haven't backslid in South Carolina like other states have. However, that doesn't mean we're doing well. State scores show that less than half of our 3rd through 8th graders can read on grade level. Nearly 70% can't do grade level math in 8th grade. What do we need to do to make the kind of giant leaps in performance that we need to do?
I think that, when we're looking at assessments, I think that NAEP, the national assessment, is the one we have to look at because that's comparing apples to apples. I think when we look at other assessments, you can't make the leap that we're failing. Having said that, if you really want to move students, particularly starting at the 3rd grade, you've got to make sure that you have high quality teachers in the classroom and that you've got small class sizes in the K through 3. If you think that a 1st grade teacher can teach 30 1st graders who are 6, 7 years old how to read, you're out of your mind. You've got to get those class sizes down and allow that teacher to focus on all of the teaching tools that she or he has in their toolbox to help those students read. And that's going to look different depending on the student, which is why that smaller class size is so important. When we think about teaching kids, they learn to read from K through 2nd grade, and then 3rd grade they read to learn. So if we can get them reading in those early grades, then we automatically lift them up through the rest of their K through 12 career. But nothing else is going to work until you get high quality teachers in there and you let them do their job and you decrease those class sizes.
Ms. Weaver.
Well, let me go back and just address something about the Education Oversight Committee that I'm actually very proud of in terms of getting the teacher voice into the classroom. We are into the policy discussion in Columbia. At the EOC, we have been advocating and recommending for over 5 years now that we do a statewide anonymous survey with teachers to understand the school climate that is happening in our local schools. And I'm proud to say that the General Assembly adopted that recommendation this year in the state budget. And so that is something that will be happening here in South Carolina going forward. And again, it's a critical way that we're going to engage the teacher voice in policy discussions in South Carolina. Now to the question of NAEP. Thankfully, we did not see the same kind of dramatic drops in our test scores like we did nationwide, but we know nationwide we saw the largest decline in math. I think one of the reasons why we did fare better here in South Carolina is that Governor McMaster and the General Assembly pushed to reopen our schools sooner. And that was something that my opponent sadly opposed. At the behest of the national unions, science was politicized. The CDC recommended keeping schools closed far longer than they needed to be. And so I'm very glad that here in South Carolina, we did reopen schools sooner. How do we address the problems that we have in South Carolina that existed even before COVID? It really starts with getting back to the basics. Early literacy is absolutely critical and will be my #1 academic priority as state superintendent. We have got to get back to teaching the proven science of reading. And we also know that in-class high-dose tutoring is also very helpful. And so we need an army of mentors and tutors in our schools to support our teachers.
Thank you, Ms. Weaver. Ms. Ellis, did you have a rebuttal to that?
I do, yes. So many things to rebut. I think first and foremost, you don't need to create a task force to find out why teachers are leaving. We've been telling you, I know, for at least 4 years and for longer than that. All you got to do is actually listen to them. As far as, students not falling as far behind, that was because of our teachers and our schools. Hands down, our teachers rocked it in adverse circumstances and doing the best that they could for the students in really, really terrible predicaments. Just worried for their student safety and health, worried for their own safety and health. And so I don't discount the fact that we actually followed the science to do what was best for our students in our schools. And that is something that I will stand behind. And while we were doing that, schools were never closed. It looked different, whether it was virtual or whether it was, in person and face to face. But those are issues that really helped our students be successful.
Thank you, Ms. Ellis. Ms. Weaver, this next question is for you. Federal COVID spending packages in 2020 and 2021 allocated an additional $3 billion to South Carolina school districts for a variety of allowed uses. As of September, only about 15% of that influx has been spent. How it's spent is up to local school boards, but how do you think it should be spent, and what can the education agency do to promote those recommendations? And from what you've seen so far, do you think that money is being spent wisely?
Well, accountability for that incredible influx of money is absolutely